Philippine-Celt connections, deadly weapons. If you were a Celt in Batanes, explore the possibility that Bronze Age Celtic tribes from Europe had settled in prehistoric Philippines. In the Cult of the Head, similarities between Philippine and Celtic headhunting practices, religious beliefs, and artifacts were discussed. This video on deadly weapons shall delve into what could have been the origins of traditional weapons used in the Philippines, with a focus on people groups who had had a history of headhunting. Spearheads. Two basic types of metal spearheads were used by the headhunting tribes of northern Luzon: a barbed deltoid triangular spearhead attached to a long wooden rod with a tang. The second was a leaf-shaped socketed spearhead where the wooden pole was firmly inserted into the metal socket. Later, spearheads showed some creative variations, but the basic forms were retained. The Boxer Codex shows an example of the socketed leaf-shaped spearhead used by the Cagayanes. These spearhead designs have been used for Bronze Age warfare from the Mediterranean to the Middle East. A similar tanged triangular spearhead with barbs was excavated from a Bronze Age site in Tel El-Hesi, Palestine. An artist's rendition of the war between Rome and the Celtic tribes led by Queen Boudica shows them using this deltoid barbed type of spear. The leaf-shaped socketed spearhead was common in Bronze Age Europe, particularly in Britain and Ireland, where Celtic tribes had spread. A standard battlefield weapon for the Celtic warrior, the Celtic spear or javelin normally comprised an ash wood pole around 2 meters in length, fitted with a large iron, leaf-shaped and socketed spearhead. Celtic tribes left behind many leaf-shaped socketed spearheads found by archaeologists and displayed in museums. Arrows. The Boxer Codex shows how the arrowheads used by the headhunting Zambals were very different from those used by the natives of the Marianas Islands or the Negritos of the Philippines. Similar to the first type of spearheads, they are flat, deltoid in shape, barbed, and tanged. This type of arrowhead, like the leaf-shaped spearheads, have been found archaeologically in Bronze Age Europe. Many examples of flat, tanged, triangular barbed arrowheads have been linked to Celtic origins and have even been found in their early settlements made in stone. Winged dagger. The bararao, or winged dagger, is unusually shaped with a leaf-like blade and a finger-fitting grip consisting of 2 horn-like projections at the pommel and no guards. The tang also protrudes at the back. This unusual type of dagger hilt has been found archaeologically in Celtic Age Ireland and have survived as traditional daggers used by the Mandaya people of the Philippines. The Boxer Codex shows us another type of winged hilt for the bararao daggers used by the Zambal headhunters. Among other customs that these natives of Zambales practice is when they kill someone, they at once remove the head and incise it in a crown pattern with a bararao and suck the brains out. The winged dagger hilt used by the Zambals also find a match in Celtic dagger hilt designs. Though the hilts have slight variations, the leaf-shaped blade, an iconic Celtic blade shape, remained the same. Regarding the Celtic leaf-shaped blades, in the constant, ever-evolving arms race of weapons technology, this blade was the pinnacle for hundreds of years, and the advantages over other sword designs made it the ideal weapon for champions, chieftains, and soldiers alike. Unlike most Bronze Age double-edged blades that were only effective for stabbing, the leaf-shaped blade was also an effective slicing tool. The leaf-shaped blades would have been used predominantly as slicing weapons with their gently curved edges, creating ideal conditions for deep, easy draw cuts. The ability to stab with a dagger-like point and cut quickly with its curving blade allowed the warrior to kill more easily. An innovation in blade technology giving the fighter a real advantage in the battlefield. The leaf-shaped blades were so effective that they were soon adapted by the Bronze Age Greeks. Historian Antonio de Morga tells us that the Visayan region of the Philippines also had its share of bararao-wielding headhunters. At the waist they carry a dagger 4 fingers in breadth, the blade pointed and a third of a vara in length. The hilt is of gold or ivory. The pommel is open and has 2 crossbars or projections without any other guard. They are called bararaos. They have 2 cutting edges and are kept in wooden scabbards or those of buffalo horn, admirably wrought. With these they strike with the point, but more generally with the edge, when they go in pursuit of their opponent. They show great dexterity in seizing his hair with one hand, while with the other they cut off his head with one stroke of the bararao and carry it away. Talibong Sword. Aside from the bararao dagger, which worked well in close combat, Visayans relied on the Talibong sword with a longer inward curving single-edged blade and hook-shaped hilt, traditionally capped by elaborately carved pommels. The Talibong is a pre-Hispanic sword that has survived through modern times due to its amazing design. The Talibong swords were used to fight against Spanish colonizers, Moro raiders, and with the Japanese during World War II. The Celtic warriors were like Filipinos whose attacks on the battlefield were fearless, wild, and savage, but they were also skilled and deadly. In Spain, they became master swordsmen, accustomed to up-close combat with their short swords. Celtiberians were infamous for their fearsome skill with the falcata, which had a large inwardly curving single-edged blade, an extremely devastating weapon. Hilts were iron, hook-shaped, and sometimes decorated with stylized horse or bird head pommels. The sword could deliver a very powerful blow, something akin to an axe strike, but with the slashing capabilities of a conventional sword. Contemporary Roman writers often describe how the falcata had the capacity to split both shield and helmet. Celtiberian warriors were renowned both for their guerrilla fighting ability and their skill as swordsmiths and metalworkers. One of their most famous weapons was the falcata, a curved 2-foot-long steel sword that was single-edged near the hilt and double-edged near the point. The weapon was weighted toward the tip, which allowed it to slash or stab its way through armor with relative ease. Spearheads, arrowheads, daggers, and swords. A single similar weapon could be brushed off as coincidence, but how can we ignore a whole set of armaments? Did Bronze Age Celts settle in ancient Philippines? What do you think? Truth is by nature self-evident. As soon as you remove the cobwebs of ignorance that surround it, it shines clear. Thank you for joining us in opening the book of our past in the hopes of a brighter future.